Epic Morning is brought to you by Vail Summit Orthopaedics and Neurosurgery, keeping you active.
Being that this segment is sponsored by Vail Summit Orthopaedics and Neurosurgery, I figured it would be important to introduce you to someone who probably, had they been around when he was alive and struggling with some of his injuries, they probably could have helped him out. And that would be Pete Seibert. Now, I was showing you some things about Sandy Treat earlier in the show. Sandy just passed away on September 1st, and Pete was one of his buddies from the 10th Mountain Division, and Pete is credited with being one of the founders of Vail. But something that I think is really amazing and that you won't necessarily understand if you read this plaque about him is that, he was technically a wounded warrior. That term didn't really come about until maybe the last 20 years or so. But Pete volunteered to be part of the 10th Mountain Division in 1945. He was only 18 years old, and he saw combat in northern Italy, and he was hit by small arms fire and also 2 mortar shells. Now, one of those mortar shells blew off his right kneecap. So he spent 17 months undergoing surgery and recovering, and doctors told him that he may never walk again. So he was completely determined to prove them wrong. So what did he do? Well, he taped himself from his hip all the way down to his ankle, and then he had a homemade leg brace, and he was able to qualify in 1950 for the U.S. ski team. The guy was determined. So that was just 5 years after being injured. So he rehabilitated himself. There we go, and made it onto the ski team. And then he ended up placing 3rd at U.S. Nationals in the giant slalom. So the determination that this guy had before he started this resort is absolutely incredible. And one of the quotes from a story in the New York Times from Pete said, the quote was, "Everybody thought we were crazy, but we thought we could do any darn thing we decided to do." Well, coming up next, we're going to show you what's happening with that weekend weather forecast.